Hey, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera show tonight. You know, I'm all in green getting ready for St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, and I hope you'll join me tonight for the show. I've got 3 wonderful sandwiches that we're going to prepare. You know, I've looked back at some of the comments from other shows, and the one I did back in season 1 on sandwiches seemed to get more compliments than any other. So I hope you'll join me tonight. I'm doing 3 sandwiches. One is one that men will love, a classic Reuben with a twist. Then I'm doing a child's favorite for breakfast that you can start tomorrow morning. And then for the girls, I've got a light, delicious Granny Smith apple Havarti cheese. You're gonna dip it in a caramel sauce with sea salt. It is yummy. So join me, 3 sandwiches for the man in your life, the child in your life, and that girl in your life. And we're gonna get really lucky because I've got a surprise at the end. So tune in for 3 great sandwiches and a lot of fun. Welcome back. You know, St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow, and I don't know about you, but I love to get my husband in the kitchen with me. And I've found out through the years that the best way to do it is to get all the ingredients measured for him. So even though I do this for the show, that's a great tip for you today. If you want to get someone involved with you, your husband or your child, in the kitchen, if you'll get everything kind of measured out, it almost becomes show-like, and it also makes the recipe a lot easier to prepare. So for this corned beef sandwich, we're putting a twist on it this time. I'm going to saute some thinly sliced onions in butter, and you know, I use a lot of butter on the show, but I also want to suggest that if you want to lighten this up at all, you can use olive oil for this process instead. But what we're going to do is actually start a caramelization process with the butter, the onions, and I'm going to use about a tablespoon of granulated sugar. And we're just going to cook these down until they're golden. This is then going to become a not quite so traditional sandwich that you can maybe serve tomorrow night or tomorrow at lunchtime for St. Patrick's Day, because we all know that the Reuben sandwich, the corned beef, is kind of a traditional Irish dish. So as these cook down, let me tell you a little bit more about this recipe. It also uses a stout beer in the recipe, and I know I've really been interested in the fact that Fresh Market now has the do your own beer part in their store. So I was able to collect 6 different beers. I needed a dark beer for this recipe, but I put together 6 different ones that we'll try out over the next few days. So that's really kind of a neat thing that they're doing in the store now. So these are getting kind of tender, and as you can see, they're starting to get nice and golden. I want to get those just a little bit browner. And the other ingredients that are going to go in this recipe, and let me go ahead and add a little bit of kosher salt and fresh cracked pepper to that as well. You know, there's nothing better than onions cooking as far as an aroma. I guess second best to that would be bacon. All right, so now we've really got a good look here. The other ingredients in this recipe are the corned beef, the stout beer, Worcestershire sauce, and a grainy mustard. All right, so that's just about right. And now I'm going to gradually add the stout beer to this. And at this point, I'm going to turn the heat up on this a little bit. And this is going to cook slowly and cook down until it almost becomes very syrupy-like. So we're kind of doing a reduction with this, with the beer in this. So just cooking along. This is going to use a marbled rye bread, and we're also going to do a Jarlsberg cheese with it. So when we come back after the break, hopefully these onions will be nice and syrupy and ready to go. We're going to add in the corned beef, the grainy mustard, and the Worcestershire sauce, and then we're going to start cooking them, getting them nice and toasted, and I'll give you some tips there as well. So come back with me after the break and we'll put this sandwich together. Welcome back, and as you can see, these onions are caramelized beautifully. That beer smell is so awesome, and I just cannot imagine a man that won't love to have this or to prepare it. So please be sure to check this recipe out at NBC26.tv under the VeryVera show, because you're going to absolutely want to do this tomorrow for St. Patrick's Day. All right, everything's prepared there. Now we're going to add to that about a tablespoon of grainy mustard, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and I'm going to get that mixed in. This is so easy because everything you needed for the sandwich is in the filling. You don't have to do anything else to the bread. All right, now we're going to add the corned beef just right in the pan with that and get all of this nice and coated. And this is amazing. You know, the corned beef, I actually love to prepare that myself, but I picked this up in the deli at Fresh Market, and it's just very flavorful. It's going to be really nice. All right, so let's turn the heat off of this, and we'll start assembling these sandwiches. All right, so this is ready to go, and what I've got here is going to go right directly on the bread. So this is enough to make 2 nice sandwiches. So I'm just gonna load this up on 2 of the slices, and I'm using a marbled rye for this, which I think is a nice hearty bread and one that's gonna look really great when these are toasted. All right, and I wanna make sure I get all of the good onion and the rest of that on there. So let me divide that around. And then this is gonna go in a hot pan to get nice and crisp. I've got the Jarlsberg cheese, and then this, when this is cooked in the skillet, this is gonna get nice and melted. And you know, people ask me all the time, how do you do things like this for catering, and how could I make this in advance? And you know, there is a trick to that. You certainly don't want to serve a sandwich that's not crisp. But if you'll put this, and I'm going to add these right now to this pan, and you can see that butter's all ready to go. So I'm going to get those cooking. But if you'll have your warming drawer nice and hot as you get these prepared, if you don't cover them, it's going to stay, the bread's going to stay kind of toasty, and they're not going to get soggy at all. So while those are cooking, let's move down here, because I've got something that you can do with your young person for the next morning. You know, I always went kind of over the top with holidays with my boys growing up, and wouldn't this have been fun to have done on St. Patrick's Day morning, to have the waffles, their breakfast, to be all about St. Patrick's Day. So I've got cottage cheese and whipped cream cheese, and I'm going to add some confectioner's sugar to that. And this is going to be the filling. It's actually a stuffed sandwich. So when we come back, I'm going to show you how we're going to turn this into St. Patrick's Day, how we're going to decorate it, and then we'll be flipping these corned beef sandwiches over. So come back in just a minute. Gosh, these sandwiches just look great. If you're just joining us, this is a corned beef sandwich that has a crystallized onion that's been marinated with beer, has a grainy mustard and Worcestershire sauce, all the perfect combinations for a really manly sandwich, and one that you can do tomorrow easily for lunch or supper, along with a really great craft beer. Would be a great St. Patrick's Day meal. So what I'm going to do now, I've already flipped these over. I'm going to transfer them to the rack of my warming drawer. And I could probably get at least 6 of these made and in the oven and prepared in the warming drawer without any aluminum foil, nothing covering that up, so that I could get a good many of these done in advance. And we'll be plating that up and tasting that in just a few minutes. But let's think about breakfast maybe for tomorrow morning with the children and do something fun that they'll love and that you can kind of begin and celebrate the holiday. So this is going to be a breakfast sandwich, and I'm going to use the electric griddle for this because I have a feeling I'm going to be making quite a few of these because they're going to love them. So we, before the break, we went ahead and stirred together the cottage cheese and the whipped cream cheese. And that's not something that I use all the time. You know, ordinarily I would whip the cream cheese myself, but I'm really enjoying buying different products, and this really is making this go a lot faster to have that already done. I'm not having to pull out a mixer. So then this recipe uses any kind of jam or jelly, and I wanted to tint it green. So I chose something that was lightly colored so I could get that good green flavor and texture, look and color for this. I'm going with a pear and almond preserve, which is wonderful. So I am going to add just a few drops of the green food coloring, just to get a nice color there, so that this sandwich, isn't that gonna be cool? Is gonna be ready for St. Patrick's Day in the morning. So let's start and get the bottoms to these done. I'm going to spread each one with a little bit of the jam. And this is something too that you could get done before the children get up, put in the warming drawer, and just keep those nice, because you want them to be kind of gooey. Going to be really good. All right, so we'll spread the jam around. And even if you have some extra of this, you could kind of heat it and pour it over the top like a syrup. Let's add the cream cheese mixture to the top, and remember I had confectioner's sugar in here. So there's enough of that sweetness, but we've got pears and cottage cheese and cream cheese, and I found that sometimes it's better not to tell what all the ingredients are when you're making things for children. So we're going to top these with the top, and these are frozen waffles that you can pick up. I picked up actually one that had multi-grains. I'm going to put the lid on all 3 of these. Okay, I've got the butter going in the pan, and I'm just going to spread this around. And you can also use pan spray if you'd rather do that. And we're going to just get these waffles toasting. And these can be done ahead as well, and then just heat it up again right at the last minute. All right, so while those are cooking, and I've got that on about 350, I'm going to get started on the prep for the girly sandwich that you're going to use when you have some friends over for bridge, or just a light something for the girls. So this is a French baguette that I picked up at the Fresh Market, and I want to make my slices on this long and skinny. So I'm going to start getting all of this bread cut. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to show you quickly how to put these sandwiches together that, like I say, are great just for a snack or for a light luncheon. So come back and join me. We've got breakfast, appetizers, and lunch all ready to go. Moms, don't forget to teach your sons. You know, as a mother, I think we all think about the things that we want our daughters to learn, but don't forget great etiquette tips for your sons. One of my favorite is to teach them to always pull the chair out if a lady is going to be seated at the table. Another one is the car door. When you've got a woman that's going to be seated in the car, whether it's you, your mother, or maybe just a girlfriend, they should always open the car door. Another one that's very important is if you're in a situation, maybe at a restaurant, where a woman comes over to the table to say hello to the family, make sure those sons are learning to stand up when that lady comes over to the table. And then finally, my favorite, the thank you note. There's nothing more appropriate than a young man to write a thank you note thanking for a special gift, maybe for a weekend outing. So remember, those tips are just as important for a young man as they are a young lady. Welcome back and happy St. Patty's Day. I've had so much fun today making some really great sandwiches that I hope you're going to try. And I'm in the process of working on the last sandwich, which is a camembert cheese, Granny Smith apple, chives, and delicious French baguette. So what I've done is I've cut the baguette into nice lengthy pieces about a ½ inch thick. Now I've put the cheese on top. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of chive, and here's where the green comes in to make these sandwiches festive. And they're just the right size for girls, or the perfect size for an appetizer type of sandwich. Now I've sliced the Granny Smith apples really thinly. I'm going to put those on top. And this is something you could do all the assembly ahead and then just wait until the last minute to cook it. I'll top it off with just a little bit more of this cheese. And then we're going to put the lid on it. And this griddle is coming in so handy today, as you can see, for several of the sandwiches that I've done. And I could have even done the corned beef sandwiches in here. And as I said, one of the things to me that makes this sort of preparation go a lot faster is if you'll get your ingredients measured out and ready just as though you had your very own cooking show. So that's part of the challenge to me, is having the ingredients and having everything ready to go. All right, let's put the lids on these. See, that's the kind of sandwich that wouldn't make me think I couldn't eat a sandwich. You know, we girls, we're always paying attention to that sort of thing and calories. So this is nice and piping hot. I'm going to get these on just to grill. These will be great cut in half or left just like they are. So let's walk down here, because I've got the other sandwiches out of the warming drawer, and like I had said earlier, you can put these, get these done ahead, just put them directly on the rack in the warmer. So I'm going to start with the corned beef, and I'll move this over. Nice and thick and just wonderful. And I want to cut this. And the way we want to display it on the plate, and doesn't that look awesome, is to have it kind of stacked up just like that. All right, now these wonderful children's sandwiches. I'm going to put this on the site with the recipes as just a little shamrock. So I've got this ready. I've got some green colored sugar that I'm going to put on the top just in the shape of the shamrock. So you just want to sprinkle that across, and then very carefully lift that up, and you've got the little shamrock on the top. And this, at this point, you could do some powdered sugar or you could do syrup. Either one of those would work. So let's walk back down and get these sandwiches flipped over, because this is going to be the last thing we get to try today and plate. Those are toasting up really nicely. And I know that several of you probably entertain for St. Patrick's Day, so hopefully this will come in handy as a great appetizer. So now let's talk about the dip that we're going to use for that last sandwich. This is a caramel sauce that I picked up at Fresh Market, and I've added a little bit of water. I've actually put fresh thyme in here, which gives it a little bit of a different twist. And now I'm gonna add some really coarse sea salt to that. And that's gonna be the dip for this sandwich today. And this can go on the platter. So I'm moving all over the kitchen today, but let's walk back down because this is what we're gonna put in this sandwich, and we'll take one of these off. And like I said, this can be a perfect thing that you can just dip down in this wonderful caramel. Maybe you could go ahead and have some of them kind of done that way. But let me tell you about something that we're gonna do. I want to encourage each of you, if you've got a recipe that you would love for me to try on the show, I want you to email it to Vera@NBC26.tv. That's Vera@NBC26.tv. Send me a recipe, add to that why you think it would be great on the show, or better yet, download a 1-minute video of you telling me about the recipe, and I'll try to use it on the show. So I hope you'll try these sandwiches. All of these are really great, but I can't wait to see your recipes and have you celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So join me back next week at 6 for the Very Vera Show.